Hey everybody, we got our Apple TV finally! Now we're not doing an unboxing video today because frankly there are a million of those out there and it's not that complex. You get the Apple TV, a little remote, a cord for the power, and that's it. So we're going to skip right ahead to the review. Today we're going to be covering a lot of things, the ups and downs, the ins and outs of the Apple TV. We'll cover the device, the installation, the setup, the remote, some stuff about the interface, and some stuff about the, did I say that already? Stuff about the competition a little bit. Anyway, let's get started on the Apple TV. Now, as far as the device itself goes, the Apple TV is exactly what you would expect from Apple. It's minimalist, it's clean, it's very nice looking, it has very attractive curves. That's just par for the course with Apple. Now, the device comes in a 32 gig version and a 64 gig version. For almost everybody out there, the 32 gig is going to be just fine. Most of what you're doing is pulling stuff from the cloud anyway, so you're not going to store a lot on here. The only exception is if you are a storage junkie, if you need to have the movies you're going to watch or the games you're going to play or whatever, if you need to have them all on here, maybe the 64 gig is worth it, but honestly for 99% of you out there, the 32 gig is going to work just fine. Now, one thing to note, on the back of this device here, we've got a few ports here. The power, an HDMI, there's a little USB-C port right here, and the Ethernet cable, or the Ethernet port. One thing you'll notice right away is that there is no optical audio port. That is something that you'll get with some of the competitors. There's no optical audio port on here. I guess Apple considers that too outdated now and they want to drag you kicking and screaming into the future, so you won't find that here on this one. Now, as far as installation goes, again, it's pure Apple. This is super easy to get set up. All it takes is a little power cord in there, an HDMI cable going to your TV, maybe an Ethernet, but it does connect to Wi-Fi as well, so potentially only 2 cords needed to get this thing up and running. Now, the one question that I'll ask you as far as installation goes is, do you own an iPhone? If you own an iPhone, installation or setup of the interface is as simple as it gets. Let me get an iPhone. Like I said, simple as it gets as soon as you have an iPhone. Basically, you just take your iPhone, put it next to the Apple TV, and it will use its near-field communicator to bring in all of your information that you've had on your phone onto the Apple TV interface, so it'll connect all of your iTunes and all that stuff automatically. It is nice. I don't need this anymore. But if you don't have an iPhone, that's really okay. I use an Android phone and I set this up just fine because of the Siri remote, which makes things unbelievably easy. We'll get more into that in just a moment. Now, as far as the interface goes, again, classic Apple. It's very clean, it's very easy to navigate. You can really fly through the navigation on that actually because of the Apple TV's best feature. The new remote. Now this is new with the Apple TV 4. One thing you'll notice right away, I don't know if you can zoom in and see that, but this whole top section of the remote is a touchpad. Now, I'll talk about the good and bad of the remote, but that really fits in both categories because you can just slide across that touchpad and go through the menu very quickly. But on the other hand, there's something about that kind of haptic feedback that you get from buttons that I am just used to, maybe because I'm an old man. So it took some real getting used to. Once I got used to it, I liked it fine, and you really can move faster, especially when you're doing things like putting in an email address or whatever. But that brings me to the best thing about this remote, which is Siri. It is a Siri-infused remote, and so you should never actually have to type anything into the Apple TV interface. So if you're asked for an email address or a password or whatever, you just tell Siri to enter your email address for you, go letter by letter, and she'll do it all for you. It's awesome. Now, for the other good stuff about the remote, it is based on radio frequency technology. You'll see it called just RF instead of IR, which is infrared. Most of the remotes that we all grew up with are based on infrared, which means you've got to point it right at the receiver for the signal to go through. In this case, it's a radio frequency, and so you can hide it behind your back. It can operate under couch cushions or in a different room, whatever the case may be. You don't have to have direct line of sight, which is a lifesaver if you ask me. Inside this tiny little remote are a bunch of little gyroscopes so that you can use it for rudimentary gaming. I got really addicted in the few days that I spent with this machine just playing Asphalt 8, which was a ton of fun. Now the one drawback, well, one of the big drawbacks with this is you can see just how tiny it is. This thing is kind of magnetized to the bottom of your couch cushions. It will just be sucked down there so easily. So you got to be really careful what you're doing with this thing, or else you're going to lose it forever. Now, as for content on the Apple TV, yes, you get Netflix and Hulu and all those standards. However, again, we have to ask the question, how immersed are you in Apple's ecosystem? Because yeah, if you want to just stream those movies through those services that I mentioned, that's fine. But if you want to purchase or rent a movie that's not found in one of those, or if you want to stream some music, Apple is going to do everything that they can to push you to spend more money with Apple. And so if you search for a movie or you want to stream some music, you're going to be using iTunes to do that. And you're stuck with their pricing and you're stuck with their ecosystem to do that. Now, some of the competition that we'll end up talking about in future videos, especially the Roku, that ecosystem is very, very friendly to somebody who is not married to, say, Apple or Amazon or whatever the case may be. So, do we recommend the Apple TV? Yes, absolutely. It's a fantastic toy if you are a heavy Apple user. If you have an iPhone and an iPad and you work on a Mac, then yes, this is going to be a great addition to your Apple collection. However, if you are an Android user, if you're a PC user, both of these things apply to me, this is a lot of fun, but at $150, it might not be quite what you're looking for because it is going to limit your options, like I mentioned, in some ways that you might not be a fan of. Alright guys, hope that video helps you decide whether the Apple TV is right for you. To see some more videos coming your way, subscribe, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next video.